Well, isn't it good to be in a wonderful state park this morning? Aren't you enjoying it? Don't you think we need to keep funding for state parks so that we can keep wonderful treasures? Greetings from the state legislature. I'm Assemblyman Mike King, and I really want to thank the Angel Island Immigration Foundation, especially, isn't she doing a great job? Catherine Toy, one of the original executive director that I knew, and the foundation members, and then Eddie Wong, who's doing such a great job. Eddie's been a friend of mine for several decades. Eddie, would you stand up? I'd like to recognize you. Thank you, Eddie. The question that I had growing up and hearing about Angel Island was, what would cause a nation, the United States of America, to, for the first time in its history, through its Congress and its president, pass a law that excluded an entire race of people? It never happened before. And the second question is, could it happen again? That question was answered briefly by my father, Frank Ng, who passed away before he could see his son sworn in to the California legislature, a legislature that had not experienced the presence of too many Asian Americans until a record number today of 11. And what he told me before he passed away was a secret that he had kept in his heart for many years. And the secret was of a day that he came back from World War II, serving honorably in the United States Army. And he had in his arms his young daughter, and next to him was his wife, who had her young son. And for weeks and weeks, he could not find housing in the great city of San Francisco. And so one morning, in response to an ad, he went to a beautiful home, an apartment building overlooking the bay, not just a few miles from here. And he knocked on the door, and a woman came up from the second-story stoop and looked down on him and said, "What do you want?" He said, "I'm here to answer your ad. I just came back from serving the United States, and I wanted to find housing." She looked down at him and scowled mysteriously and disappeared. And he thought that she was going to come down the stairs and open the door and show him this beautiful apartment that he could raise his family. And she reappeared on the stoop a few seconds later, and she had in her hand a garbage pan, which contained that morning's breakfast garbage. And she proceeded to turn it down on top of this man, my father, and emptied it on him and his family. And yes, I was that young son, being held by my mother. And he said, "You Chinamen, go back to China." And that, for the first time, crystallized in my mind what it must have been like to have been a Chinese American living in the United States or abroad wanting to immigrate, the hysteria that must have occurred. And so that's why when I became a California legislator, I wanted to tell the story of my father, but his story did not end in bitterness. He did not tell the story to tell me to hate people. He told me that story to say, "Mike, we must turn those horrible lessons into our history books and our textbooks so our young people can learn from them. And we must turn a day of hatred into a day of love and inclusion and coalition building so that people don't have to face the political isolation that the Chinese Americans faced at that time because they had very few allies." And so that's why I would like to bring to your humble attention Assembly Joint Resolution 76, which was passed last year, commemorating the end of the Chinese Exclusion Act on December the 19th, 1943, a few years before I was born. And so, because of this resolution, we are now going to celebrate an inclusion of all races, a celebration of all ethnic groups, a turning away from all discrimination and all hatred, And so please join with me as we celebrate in Southern California and in Sacramento on December 19th of this year, joining Steve Yi and the Yi-Fao Museum. And we will hope that maybe next year we'll also include the Bay Area. Are there anybody here from the Bay Area that would like to join us next year? Great. I am greatly encouraged. And so thank you for inviting me. And thank you to the ancestors that went before us. And thank you to all of you that have been touched by this incredible island. And we now know that we need not be an island or a state or a nation of devils, because we really are a nation and a state and an island and a people of angels. Thank you. Thank you, California. God bless you and God bless America.